So this is Career Lab Wednesday. Welcome, Eric, Cornelius, Tischer, and Dr. Medlock. We are here to support you in your career. So we take all questions, any questions that you have about your career, anything you want support with. Maybe you're at the beginning of your career and you're getting used to interviewing. Maybe you've been at the same company for 10, 20 years and the pandemic has moved things around so that you're looking at other opportunities. Whatever it is, however we can support you, any question career related is open. You can participate. Our favorite way is when you jump into the Zoom meeting directly so we can work with you one-to-one. If you can't do that, you can always type your questions into the comment section and Jane Coletto will make sure to get those over to us. We'll do our best to address those questions. Welcome, Chase. Welcome, James. Good to have you on. So this is Career Lab Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. And we've been talking about a lot of things from negotiating, and it's all kind of led us at negotiating and networking. And a central theme to that has been engagement. So engaging in your career. So we want to talk about that today. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Good to have you on.
What? How you guys doing? Morning.
Good.
Good morning.
Yes. How's let's just jump in for a minute for Joe.
Yes.
I'll be here for a minute or so. So how are things going with your new position and everything?
It's going well. Just got to meet some of the officers that are starting their shift this morning. So we're making our rounds to all the different. We have 8 districts, and most districts have 3 watches. So we have to go to midnight shift, day shift, and afternoon shift, and talk to each officer and find out what their questions are and what I can answer. So we've been doing that the last month. And then we're hitting all the other non-patrol units that are in support of all of what we do.
That is inspirational, Joe. And actually our theme today is engagement. And there's a beautiful example of it right there. Is the first 6 months of your job at any job you're looking at is what's the impression you're going to make and how are you going to get in relationship with the people where you're working and make sure you understand who they are, what their concerns are, and how you can support them. So, Joe, that's a beautiful example of you just taking that on and doing it.
That's fantastic. And I'm thinking of you in a big way. Reading the book Hawaii, the James Kitchener book. And I know it's not, 100% historical, accuracy, but giving me a little bit of a window into where you're at. And so I was thinking about you with that. Our organization is going on a trip there in November.
Oh, okay. And where are you going to stay at? Do you know?
I don't know the details of that yet. I think on the Big Island.
But actually, we could get that information to you, and we'll let them know that. What district are you in charge of, Joe?
So I'm Honolulu, so the island of Oahu.
Okay.
So we're the capital and we're the central hub of the state of Hawaii. The Big Island is beautiful, though. My wife is from the Big Island.
Well, and they may be going around to different ones, so we'll see.
Yeah, let me know what your itinerary is, and if I have an opportunity to be there in person, I'd be more than happy to
That would be fun.
help engage and enjoy what's going on and help you see the site. There's a lot of great things here to see, and there's some things you might want to stay away from.
Okay.
They're actually looking at some of the spiritual sites in Hawaii too.
Yeah.
So if you have some insights about that, that would really be helpful.
Yeah, if you go to the Big Island up on the northwest side, my wife is from North Kahala, the very northern tip of the island. But up there is a heiau, which is a burial site for Hawaiian, ancient Hawaiians. And that is the area where King Kamehameha the Great, the mom came over and had the king born when the canoe landed because they had to escape from one island to another. And he became the future king. And so he's the one who united the islands, except for the island of Kauai. But he's the one who took by force, really, the other islands to make what is now the state of Hawaii.
Interesting.
Whoa.
We'll have to get that across to Bob and Judith and see what.
There's a lot of history here, and we're the only state in the nation that has a palace. And so the palace is here. Beautiful place.
Cool.
Oh, cool.
That's really exciting. I'll follow up with you on that. We'll see what we can, if that's useful for our team. That would be good to know. But thank
Will
you.
do. Yeah. All right. I appreciate it.
Okay. And anything that we can support you on today? Anything you wanted to check in on?
No, I just wanted to jump in and see what's going on. Speaking of engagements, one of the things we have is we're short vacancies, right? So I've got about 300 plus positions. Like most of the mainland police departments, people have left for various reasons, and recruiting is getting more and more difficult. The challenges recruiting into the law enforcement field, and so we just was at a class last night with the family. They just started yesterday. And so their family came, and so I had a chance to meet with their families and kind of give them an idea what their loved one is going to go through for the next 6.5 months in the police academy, and then as they enter the force. But what I've been talking to the patrol units is, people say, well, Chief, you're the face of the department. And I said, absolutely, on the media, yeah, but not in reality, you are. Because you engage every day with the public, and that interaction or engagement you have with the public, good, bad, or indifferent, leads an impression of what the community feels about their police department. So that engagement and that topic you're talking about today is just spot on for exactly what I did less than 30 minutes ago with the watch that's getting started, to tell them that they're the ones that need to recruit, and their behavior, their actions, their professionalism is what encourages people to join the police department. If they don't come across as professional, then the person might say, well, I don't want to be a part of that department. So they don't join. And so it's very careful that doesn't mean you can't do your job, but it just means I'm treating everybody with dignity and respect.
That's a great point. And it also is a good reminder for a lot of people on our calls of the other side of the equation. While you're looking for a job, there's the other side of how does the employer actually best position themselves to attract the best possible candidate.
Right.
And that's a very important part of the equation. Something you can be curious about as a job searcher too, to ask your employer, how are you doing in terms of attracting talent here, and what are the principles or values you're looking for? You can have that
Absolutely.
as a question, and then that can be something you can also respond to specifically in your own case. So, great perspective. Well, it's always good to see you, Joe. I really appreciate your engagement with us and the way you've taken on the learning and sharing it with others as well. Really appreciate that.
My pleasure. Whatever I can do to help people improve their lives, better their lives, or continue what they're doing. And maybe sometimes we lose excitement, we lose the friendships and the ability to be enthusiastic about our jobs. And so just constantly praise everybody for what they're doing, call out when things go wrong, and just keep the enthusiasm up. So it's a difficult task. But I have to keep my enthusiasm up to make sure that, so you got to recharge your batteries, you got to take a day off every once in a while, but but it's a great job, and anything that you do or chose to do, it's all how you feel about it.
That is so cool, so well said. And for everybody, part of what we're dealing with here is how many of us end up just dialing it in, kind of half involved, just checking the box, and as opposed to really being fully committed. And the other thing about you that I think is important is a net giver. You're really looking at, sometimes we're always sitting with our own anxieties about, am I getting enough of the job? But sometimes the question is, how am I doing really contributing to others? A lot of the meaning we find is in our ability to do that. So
absolutely.
And I wanted to underline one of the things you said about you didn't say accentuating the positive, but encouraging and pointing out the good things and pointing out the gifts and the talents. That's actually rule number 1 in the 7 rules of engagement for effective communication. That in the research that we've done around how to really do that, I know there's accentuate the positive, minimize the negative, and that nobody gets more than 50% of the blame. And so just to hear you talking about that from in terms of leadership and how you can keep motivation going, help people, help create the environment where people can thrive. And we actually have a
we still
training
hold
on that
people.
tomorrow evening.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow from 6 to 8 Central Time. Rules of engagement. Dr. Judith Wright is going to be hosting that.
Ah, very nice. Yeah, one of the things I tell the young patrol officers and the new recruits coming in is my job is to take the blame for everything that doesn't go right in this department. That's my job, my responsibility. I own that, right? And that doesn't come down on all of you. Now, if you do something wrong, you're accountable for that. But by and large, the things that the media or the public are upset about the department, that's my responsibility. But then when people praise the department, I push that down to all of you because that's what you did. That wasn't my engagement. That's your engagement. So all the positive goes to the young officers, the patrolmen, the people doing all the work, and the bad stays at my level because I'll take care of that.
Gordon, you're on mute.
I think what you're saying in that, Joe, is it's important for leadership to have the backs of their people. And
Absolutely.
so they're really saying that, you know, if some criticism does come, I'm behind you right here. I'm not going to just throw you under the bus. I'm taking responsibility for that. And that means a lot to people. So that's a strong move.
Absolutely.
You know, I think we ought to have Joe leading a seminar on
I agree.
Leadership 101. Yes.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm serious.
One of the things
Joe.
that
I'm very serious.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just let me know how I can help. You guys have been fantastic for me and what I've done the last year to be where I am today. So I owe a lot of it to listening, responding, and talking with all of you, with you, Donna and Dr. Matlock. And so to me, that's the most important. What you've done for me personally in my career has shaped me to be where I am right now. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's our honor.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
And frankly,
well, welcome, Greg. Good to have you on. Wanted to acknowledge you here and wanted to do a room reset for everybody joining in. This is Career Lab Wednesday. We are opening the floor to all questions. We love it when you can jump in on the Zoom directly and engage with us one-to-one like Joe has been doing. But we do have some questions coming up here in the chat. Now I want to check, Eric, are you able to come off mute and work with us, or should we circle back to you?
No, I can. Are you looking for more clarity on my question?
Yes, best strategies for communicating with senior management.
Yeah, so
just one second, Joe, just to let you know, if you need to jump off, that's fine. I know you're a busy man, but you're welcome to stay as long as you'd like, but just want to let you know.
I will do that. I'm trying to see what happened in the last 24 hours while I was
Go ahead.
at home. Yeah.
Okay. Take care. Go ahead, Eric.
yeah,
So
no
I'm
problem.
listening in, so I'll stay on. But
Okay.
So as part of this kind of with recent production issues we've had at in my role with the products I plan for, there's been this escalation process that's been instituted where we have a supply chain relationship manager who puts together a one-page slide, and then he reports it up to senior management has a large between Premium and Tail Isle. There's an intercompany operations meeting basically. And so, I'm being tasked with, giving him all this information, obviously in a condensed but informative format, since he's, taking this and reporting it up to, basically the C-suite folks of the company. So just trying to, figure out the best way to take the information I get and put it into a form that, ideally he doesn't have to tweak too much, something I can give him the first time that he's going to use the first time, right? Not only to help him, but also help me make myself look good in my own role.
It's a great question. I think, and I know a number of things. We do a lot of that kind of work ourselves. Is the first thing we look at is what's the purpose of the communication? In other words, why is this happening? What's the problem it's addressing? And what's the impact you want it to have? So that you're really clear about the purpose. And if there's any kind of confusion about that, to make sure that you're in touch with the person who's going to deliver it about what that purpose is. So just really having that nailed down. And the other thing is there's a lot of debate about how to use PowerPoint. Sometimes they get too text dense and kind of become just reading off the slide, as opposed to using images that really evoke the emotional tone of what you want to get across, and then be able to speak to a couple main points that you might just pull up on the slide. So I encourage people. I tend to be sort of a text heavy guy, so I always need to edit it back. And less is more in this world, and more of the image that will communicate the message more powerfully is often very important. So those are a couple initial thoughts that come to mind at this point.
You know, something that somebody has coached me on is thinking in threes, and just for whatever reason we've kind of evolved in such a way that it seems to be an effective way of communicating. So boiling things down into the three main points, and then you can have stuff underneath that, but oftentimes just going into a meeting and being able to say, here's the three main points. It's not always 3 points, but you know, that's helped a lot of people. That's helped me a great deal, especially to keep from rambling.
Yep. No, and I appreciate it. Just a point of information. He's putting together the PowerPoint slide. I'm basically just giving him the information, but I think that rule of 3 is good when he's coming to me and asking for, you know, what's the current status? What are some root causes? What does the future look like? So,
yeah, have them underlined. Good.
How much interaction do you have with them?
Kind of like somewhat frequent, just because we have a company or international customer that we sell direct to that's a big buyer of our stuff, and we have a weekly meeting that we get together with them and go through and talk with everything. And so he's on my call, and we'll have other meetings again for this one with relation to this international customer, and kind of on an allocation other level. So it's not like I'm talking with them every day, but I'd say 4 or 5 times a month.
You know, sometimes mirroring back to somebody, listening to what they're saying and on projects and just kind of overall, and then telling them what you got from what they've been sharing can be incredibly helpful to them.
Okay.
Because the way our brains are wired is we don't really hear or see ourselves. We don't internalize things a certain way. So it's incredibly helpful to have people mirroring things back to you, to be giving you feedback. That's one of the things that we find in our coaching programs, is that students will say one of the most impactful things for them is to have a team leader or a coach point out the ways that they're seeing them develop, because it's not really real to me until somebody else says, wow, do you notice how you're speaking slower, more grounded? You can tell you're more present with yourself. It's easier for me to connect with you. But if people aren't pointing that out to me, I might not notice it. And so if you're able to point out the things that are really interesting to you, or you think will be helpful, and say, wow, the way you put that when you were sharing that helped me understand. And that could be very valuable feedback for them.
Okay. No, I'll keep that in mind. But yeah, that's all I had. As always, really appreciate the feedback.
Sweet. Thank you, Eric. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. Now, Cornelius Henderson, welcome. Good to have you here. So you're saying that you're later in your career, many years in the learning development space, looking for advice around moving to a more senior level, either with my current organization or elsewhere, also looking to move more into DEI. Any advice for someone in my position? Well, Cornelius, are you able to come off mute and talk to us a little more about that?
I am.
Great. So it sounds like you know what you want, but fill us in a little more, where you're at and any of the blocks or challenges you're having.
Yeah, I think that the challenge is just it's just in my area or my department in learning development, it's just a really short organization, so there's really nowhere to go up.
Oh,
I've been with the organization for going about 7 years, but like I said, prior to that, a number of years in, training and development, learning development. Would love to branch out. Those are really my interests, doing DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion type of work along, training, development, strategy, those things. But there's right now no place or no space in my organization, specific to that. So I'm sort of at this crossroads, can't really go up, can't really spread out, and trying to, at this stage in my career, find out, how do I continue to build skills, so I'm at least a value to my organization, but also positioning myself for moving into this new area in more of a senior role, or perhaps just even a senior role outside of this organization.
gotcha. Okay. Well, what's your relationship like with your boss or whoever at your current organization?
Great relationship. She's relatively new to the organization, but we've got a great relationship. Our team is small, but really, really strong, team dynamic there. And we're transparent and honest with each other, so I've expressed my intent, or not intent, but desire to sort of move into that area. But there's only so much that, she can do.
Totally. Okay. So and have you asked her about other opportunities that might be good for you? What she sees as your gifts and how you contribute?
I have not. I have not. I think talking about sort of the desire to want to move into DE and I, I've had the opportunity to work on some recent projects around that for the organization, but but where we are as an organization, that is not an area. So there's no possibility at this point where there's a the E&I manager or leader or executive role in that particular position.
So it sounds like that's probably not going to happen at the organization. It maybe not a big enough organization, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's a big enough organization, but it's just not from a strategy perspective where they're trying to go. Where we've got a number of different locations throughout the country, a lot of different brands and different things like that. So from a strategy perspective, they don't see that as a way that they want to approach diversity, equity, inclusion by having one person or a figurehead like that. So no, to your question directly, I don't see that as a possibility in the short term.
Okay. Well, would you be able to have that conversation with your boss about your gifts and what she sees for you?
I could.
Okay. I think that might be a great place to start.
Mm-hmm.
And you may get into doing the DEI work, independently. It can really help that you're working with an organization that gives you network and credibility. You could talk about that with her and see about, make sure there's not a conflict of interest or something like that. But that might be one way that might help you move into another organization that might be a better fit. But one of the things that we find is that you talking about it and sharing what you want, and getting the support of those around you is usually a really good idea.
Okay.
How does that sound?
No, very, very helpful. I appreciate that. I think, like I said, I think the relationship is open, transparent. I could definitely have that conversation, and she'll tell it to me like it is, and I can feel comfortable doing that. I don't think we've had that enough though, so that's great. That's great advice.
Cornelius, that's fantastic. Let us do that and keep coming back. Let us know how it goes, because the insights, the feedback that she gives you
Mhm.
can be really valuable and really helpful to process with others.
Should I have that conversation just with her or others within the organization as well? In sort of the having the opportunity to do some diversity training for our leaders and things like that. I have worked with a senior level person within the organization. Would you suggest that maybe having a conversation? Now, our relationship probably isn't as strong as my direct leader, but would you recommend even sort of having conversation with him?
It sounds like you're thinking of it. What do you think?
Let me add something to this one, if I can, George Donald. I think,
Yeah, absolutely.
Ernest, I'm sorry, I stepped away for a moment before I'm catching up here, but what I'm hearing is this is a development opportunity for you and your organization, and you want to develop senior level mentors who you can, and potential sponsors for things. So it's all very much in keeping with that, to look at your own development needs and desires and getting building alliances and getting coaching. Just keep your boss in the loop about what you're doing and let them know, or her know, or whatever, that this is a development interest for you and something that you think you can contribute to the organization, and get her buy-in as well.
Great. Keep her in the loop. Sounds great.
Okay, good.
Thank you both.
That sounds
You
great.
bet, Cornelius. I look forward to hearing what develops.
Absolutely. I'll be back.
Fantastic. Well, welcome everybody who's been jumping in. Good to see you, Tyrone. Welcome, SB. And to everybody who is watching in through LinkedIn Live, you can type your questions into the comments section, just like some of you have been doing. So we're getting some questions coming in there. I wanted to check in with you, Greg. This is the first time I've seen you on here. Is there anything that we can support you with today? Good to have you join. Oh, 1 sec. Okay.
Right now I'm just I'm kind of observing to see what this is all about. So nothing I need support on this very moment, I don't think.
Fantastic. Well, welcome. Good to have you join.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
And at any point that something resonates or you want to explore it, we have a policy. It's not required that you take turns. If you're somebody's sharing something and you're what we call co-voyaging, what they're bringing up, if you've got, just go ahead and jump right in. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I see one in here in the chat actually, where who is it, Alfonso, who says, I work remotely, been there 8 months. Is it too early to look for a new job if you're not happy?
Oh, yes.
That would be, I just started a new job about a month ago. I'm not unhappy. I'm not happy yet. I'm sort of just very middle of the road on it right now, but it's still certainly very early. But I guess the good question is how early is too early to, or how long is too long?
This is a really important question.
To stick at something.
We have a philosophy at Wright that when you're looking at making a move, to really look at where you are right now, what are the opportunities that you may or may not be developing for yourself in that situation, and really make a good faith effort to do that. So we really encourage you, particularly with our theme of engagement today, that first 6 months on a job is the critical piece. And what some people find, and this I'll speak to you and to the person who wrote the initial note, when there's a job opening that you respond to, there's a reason there's a job opening. Something's not working. So they're going to paint it in the best possible way. But when you get there, you may find, oh my gosh, there's more wrong here than I expected. Actually, I put my house on the market, I think a little prematurely. This is a bit of a digression, but I'll quickly wrap it up. It turns out if we'd have waited 6 months and done all the repairs, it would have been a lot easier and less stressful on this. But what we discovered is we had a lot of stuff to clean up to get this thing market ready. So having a job opening is kind of like that for a company. There's something that they're needing to fill. There's an issue. And a lot of times the problems are serious. So part of it is, okay, it's not the perfect thing I was looking for, but what can I do to help turn this situation around for this company and give it the best shot? It will be a better story for you in your next position to talk about what you did to make an effort rather than I just bailed because it didn't seem to fit. So we really encourage you to be, again, looking at what you can do to make a difference. And if you are dissatisfied, identify what the issues are and look to what it takes to get satisfied, and negotiate that with your boss, rather than being willing to accept terms that are already building resentment and not working. And so it's kind of tricky, I think, with the other call or the other text chat message we got. If you're really new on the job, first few months, and you're learning, it's probably not the time to say that you're irritated with a lot of things, because that's going to start painting a negative picture. But for you to be conscious of that, and knowing, like, sharing your upsets in a place that's safe, like a coaching situation, separate from your work, and then managing that relationship by giving it your best and trying to address the concerns, so that if you decide after 4 or 5 months of trying to do that, it's not working, then you are seriously looking for another position. Then you can raise the ante about what you're wanting that's missing there. And without, prematurely saying you're leaving, but more like, here's some things I'm seeing that I think are real concerns I'd like to see addressed, and to be advocating for your satisfaction. So it's a delicate balance, and it takes a lot of, what we're teaching here is social and emotional intelligence. It's ability to read the situation, know what's going to be okay to express in a given situation, how your boss is going to receive it. There's a lot of those kinds of skills that are really important. And so I don't want to underestimate that point, but because the advice I'm giving requires a fair amount of finesse in knowing how to do that strategically. So,
yep, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Medlock. I just threw the link again in for the rules of engagement for tomorrow night, where we go deeper into those skills of communication.
Donald, I'm really liking that theme. If we get a chance today, I'd like you to kind of go through each of those rules and how it would apply to career, because frankly, I don't think that's something we've explicitly talked about, and I think that would be a cool presentation. So just if it fits today.
Fantastic. And I'll take this moment to say too, I'm actually going to go off camera so I can be a little more present. Some back pain today, and so I'm going to still be on, but going off camera, and I'll see if I can speak to that. And I did want to say one thing. Not every, what you were saying, Dr. Medlock, about that there's problems at a company when they're hiring and they need, they're working on something. And to underline that, if I'm remembering when I was hiring people on and having them come, and I would say explicitly, look, one of the things I'll really appreciate is when you point out to me what I'm doing that's not working. Now, most people aren't going to, might not say that directly. But if there's the goal of, okay, how can we really make things work better in this company? And if you can develop the rapport where people can really hear, I guess what I'm wanting to say, Greg, is in your fresh time at this company, don't lose track of what isn't working. Even if it's not the perfect time to bring stuff up, or I don't know what the culture is like there, but you have fresh eyes right now, and there's important stuff about what you're seeing that doesn't work well. And even if you end up not staying at that company long term or whatever, but to be able to communicate that in a way that people would be able to hear that feedback could be incredibly valuable to them. Yeah. And learning that skill it's a skill. It's a skill to learn. It takes practice. It takes intention. So I'll share a little bit more about those 7 rules in a little bit, but we're getting some more questions in here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for jumping in. Well, I want to tee up this next one from Dan. I need help. You run an educational-based financial firm, and you're expanding all over the United States. Experience is not required. Training and licensing providing remotely, but they need clean background in order they can tech. So this is like an ad. Dan, if anybody who is viewing this LinkedIn Live event, and this sounds like something you're interested in, text Dan. Jane, you can go ahead and repost that in the comments section if that's helpful. Thank you. Okay, so you might have some leads there.
That's coming in from the live feed. Is that right, GD?
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be good to post it here as well. That's great.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, we got that in the comments section here.
That's part of what this meeting is about, is exchange of networking opportunities. So if people have a lead that they would like to put out there, that's fine to do. And if you're looking for a particular kind of position, fine to put that in there and see who else might resonate with it. So please feel free to use the chat in that way, or the live feed.
Yep, thank you. Thanks, Dr. Medlock, for underlining that. And thank you, Dan. Welcome, Mahabube. Welcome. Good to have you join. So there's a few ways that you can engage in here. Is you can jump onto Zoom, which is, we love when you do that, so we can work with you directly. It really serves people to hear what you're working on, helps them learn vicariously. And the other thing you can do is type your questions into the comments section on LinkedIn if you're unable to jump in live. So I'm seeing another question here. Tyrone, you've got a long question here. Are you able to come off mute and share that?
Well, it's really not a question. It's just an update. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, we got you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's weird how things evolve because, well, I work overnights and weekends, but I did what you guys suggested, and I reached out to someone in another department and networking. And
Oh, fantastic.
yeah, I did. And she responded back. Well, I reached out to two recruiters, and one of them, well, both of them responded, and one, she responded back by saying she wanted to talk to me. I was like, oh, wow. So we talked on last week, and we had a great conversation.
Oh,
She
good to
even
hear.
yeah, she even told me, because she was just wanted to know what kind of experience that I have, because I applied for the IT support technician position. I told her I do have 6 months of help desk experience. It was a contract, plus I have 2 month. It was just 2 month tenure at a IT healthcare company. I was a support analyst, and I just told her that right now I'm taking cybersecurity courses, and I'm learning a lot. I'm learning about routers and switches, Python, yeah, and networking. Well, yeah, networking bands with. I even told her, like, I've been practicing on the lab, doing lab work. And
That's great. So, and
yeah,
Tyrone, it sounds like she wants you to brush up on your technical skills. How are you doing at that?
I'm doing good. I did explain to her that I've been practicing. Like, it was a week ago. I connected 2 cables, and I did a peer-to-peer network. It's when you connect 2 computers together with crossover cables, and that's what I told her. And yeah, and check this out. She told me she's even on the hiring board, and I was like, oh wow. And she just told me to, because I told her, like, for the exam, for the certification, it's like 1,000 and I believe 46 acronyms we have to learn. I mean, different subject matter, and that's a lot to learn. But she just told me, she said, learn as much as you can on the acronym. And
So Tyrone, let me interrupt you for just a second, if I may. So
okay.
You're telling us a lot about what you're learning, but what is it you want us to understand, or what help or support are you wanting right now on your call today?
Well, I just thought I'd give you guys an update, to be quite honest. I mean, because I do know people in the organization, but I didn't look deep enough.
Got it. Well,
I didn't look deep enough.
Tyrone, no, thank you for bringing this up, because you're underlining the power of networking, and thanks for letting us know how you've used the coaching and checking in on that. And it sounds like doors are opening for you that might not have been opening. You're seeing the possibilities. You're getting encouragement from somebody who it sounds like could make the decision to hire you, or at least greatly influence your next steps there. So that's fantastic.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and believe it or not, I've got this advice from three of good friends of mine. They told me to practice on my presentation and speaking, and that's what I've been doing when I have that little time to myself
Mhm.
overnights. Yeah, uh, I do practice. I write down, and I just try to practice. Even when in the mirror, I'll try to talk
Oh, that's
as
great.
though I'm talking to the interviewer, because
Uh-huh.
So Tyrone, we've got a process for helping people do exactly what you're talking about. How to talk about your own experience in a way that's going to be attractive to people who might want to hire you. Okay, so you open to this?
yes,
So we call it PAR statements. PAR. Are you a golfer
Okay.
by any chance?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Do you play golf?
Uh, Miniature golf, but it's been
Okay.
some years. Yeah.
But you understand what I mean by PAR, right? PAR?
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
that comes from golf, but really what it stands for here, for our purposes, is problem, action, result. What people want to hear in business communication is bottom line. And they want to know,
Right.
what's the problem you were addressing? Like you told us a story about somebody who had a networking issue where they had to get something connected. So the problem was they were having a connection issue. They needed to connect to two systems. The action is, what did you do to address the problem? You can tell them, what I did was I'd done some homework and I was learning about connecting networks, and I was able to identify their issue and was giving them the solution of what cables they needed to connect in order to make it work. And then the result was, within 15 minutes or a half-hour call, they were up and running on their application and they got what they need.
Wow. I like that. I like that.
Result. Bottom line, there's a problem, actions that you took, and the result that you took and had. And the result, people love numbers in business. They like to quantify. How long did it take you to do it? How much money did you save the company?
Right.
What was the rating on the customer service call? Whatever you can quantify on the result adds credibility and gives a kind of punch to your story. So
Right.
we really encourage this, and each bullet point in your resume should be a PAR statement.
Right. That's just what she said. Yeah, she told me to make sure you put the exact bullet points in your resume.
Yeah, and a lot of people just list their duties and responsibilities, and so it doesn't really tell much. But if you list a PAR statement, you're telling them what your skill set is. Here's the problems I kind of solve. Here's the way I do it, and here's the results I create. It gives them being bottom line. So I suggest you try that. And our next call, see if you can share a PAR story about something you're learning that has that kind of punch on it. Okay, fair enough.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys, man, you guys are incredible.
Well, we're a tag team.
We all might have to go play golf one day. I know I love Chicago, so I don't know the golf scene there, but
we got lots of good courses out here.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Where's home for you? Where do you live?
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. Home of.
Yeah, they got good golf down there, I'm sure, as well. Okay, thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tyrone. Well, great. So this is Career Lab Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. We invite all questions career related. Your career is a pathway or a vessel for you to become who you can become. So we love watching you learning and growing with you. We've got one question here in the chat section that we could address, but I want to check in with Mahu Bebe. Are you able to come off mute and share how we can support you today? And also correct me on how I'm saying your name. I'm probably not saying it.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you so much. Actually, and I just listen to you and other people. You know, I'm not. I don't know what's the subject. I just listen to understand.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
great. Well, if you have any questions that come up or anything, feel free to type them in the chat or come off mute and let us know.
Thank you too.
Yes, you're welcome. Well,
Thank you.
good to have you. So, somebody is asking, curious to hear from others. What is the best questions you have asked of an interviewer that helped you learn more about the opportunity?
Mhm.
Okay, I'd love to hear that. What questions have you asked the interviewer that helped you learn more about the opportunity? That's fair game for anybody.
Mhm.
I don't know that we're getting any bites on that one, but
Well, I'll jump in if there's a gap here for now. I mean, one of the questions, it's kind of a sensitive one, but you can bring it up at some point, was how did it happen that this position is open right now?
oh,
What was it that led to this being advertised? And so they're probably not going to want to say too much about that, but they might say, well, this is a high priority for us, or you know, we're growing now, we're developing. So they might put a positive spin on it, but it might be also they had a difficult time filling this position, or there might be some challenges there. So you might learn something about that. So it kind of can be a little bit touchy area in terms of the employer perhaps not wanting to tell too much, but it's often a very good question. And what you want to find out is, what are the challenges in this position? What are the challenges you're finding in terms of the new employees that you are hiring? You know, is this a one-off position, or are you hiring for a number of people in this role? And what are the main challenges you're finding in terms of bringing new people in? And what are the main challenges in this position that you would identify? So they'll talk about all that, because that shows that you're curious and you want to know exactly what you're going to be getting into. So that should help to get some traction there. And it's a great question to ask. I'm glad to hear you coming from the perspective of you interviewing them and not just letting them interview you. This is a back and forth process. So kudos for that.
great. Well, thank you for the question, and Dr. Medlock, thanks for the response on that.
Sure.
You know, well, maybe now is a good time to share for a few minutes about the 7 rules of engagement and how that can apply to your career. And I'd love for anybody to jump in. Oh, what'd you say, Dr. Medlock?
Let's underline I think you said that there's a seminar on this, later this week? You'll just mention that first as we kick it off, okay?
Oh, yes. And right before we get to that, actually, Dr. Medlock, will you address this question that just came in? What would make me successful in the first 3 to 6 months?
Boy, that's a good question. Joe Logan is on this call, and he gave a great demo of it. I don't know if you were able to hear it. But actually, Joe, why don't you tell him, what is it that you see as being the most important thing in the first 6 months on your job?
Well, for me, it's expressing, you know, what your values are, what your priorities are in the department, and then how you, as the leader, are going to remove obstacles for your subsequent managers, middle level managers and leaders in the organization, how to remove obstacles so they can do their job. And so that's really what I've done the first 2 months. And then I've gone out to do my best to try to meet everyone in the department and ask questions, or have them ask me questions on maybe why did I throw my name in the hat for chief. And so I think that's what I've done. And I'm still working my strategic plan. And then I'm getting buy-in from the community, or internally and externally. So those are all the things, you know, you gotta get your vision mission out there. Even though it's a tentative one, because it's going to change with the strategic plan, and then go out there and espouse everything why you want to lead and all the positive things about the organization.
Thank you, Joe. And let me just position this for the caller, because I'm not sure at what level they're talking about. Joe's coming in at a very senior level. So in his case, it's about helping them feel safe and know him so that they know what kind of leadership they're going to have. If you're at another place in the organization, the principle that he's talking about is connecting with the people that you're going to be working with. Get to know them, find out who they are, find out what their concerns are, how you can be helpful, and telling them a little bit about you and what you do and what you bring, so that there's a back and forth. But the focus is on you as a net giver and net contributor, understanding the people you're interfacing with and spending the time to get to know people. Just having lunches, we call them meet and greets, just wanting to get to know you, talking about personal things, just person to person, not always just about the job. Remember that as workers, we're human beings interacting with each other. We're in the same sandbox 8 hours a day. Let's have a good time. So part of this is being a good colleague and a good contributor, but taking the time to get to know them and what their concerns are and how you can be helpful. That's, I think, the number one thing. And sometimes people rush too quickly into, they want to show how smart they are and getting all this stuff done, and they don't even know the lay of the land of what they're stepping into, and they might offend people in the process without even being aware of it. So get to know who your playmates are. It's very important.
That well said, Dr. Medlock. I often refer to that study about making decisions. And when the internet first happened and they were going to do global companies and they got the smartest, most trained people to do these, and then everything fell flat on its face. And after 12 years of research, they found that in order for us to make decisions, we need a template of who we're talking to. We have to know that. So when they're doing these global projects, they found the best thing to do was fly everybody in to one space, bring the families with them if they could, and then make sure nobody talks about business and everybody just gets to know each other, so that for the year on, then when they're just responding to emails and they don't see the people's faces, that they know it triggers that response, to the ability to be able to respond. So in the first 6 months, it's just, can't underline enough how important it is to get to know people as people. It will help them know you and respond to any new changes you're bringing in, all of that.
Yeah. Thank you, George. And the one other thing I would add to that is understand what your boss wants and expects and what he or she needs in order for you to make them look good. Now, you don't put it that way, but what matters to them? What matters to them that they need that you can contribute to making sure that they're getting their expectations addressed? That's very important. And then to be able to deliver some quick wins in that area where your boss is pleased to see that you're focusing on what matters to them and you are delivering some things that matter to them. That's also very important, and probably of all the people, that's probably the most important at the beginning, because you want to establish that good rapport with your boss. One of the important statistics is people join companies, but they leave managers. In other words, it's the problem with the manager relationship that it tends to be the most challenging and the most important. So take some time to cultivate that, understand your manager, what they want, and deliver something that lets them know you're paying attention. So you do those things, you should be good to go. And that first 6 months, first impressions are everything. So do what you can to create the best possible first impressions along those lines.
Sweet, thank you. And by the way, Jane dropped the playlist for where we'll be posting this video, so you can go back and review any sections. You can review what Joe was sharing earlier in the meeting as well. So thank you, Jane, for posting that. And I want to say again, tomorrow evening we have our Rules of Engagement workshop, where Dr. Judith Wright will be going in deep on these. There's a ton of research behind what helps relationship thrive. And that's career, relationships at work, relationships with your family, all relationships. So I'm going to close out today just going through these. And Dr. Medlock or anybody on the call who wants to just underline how you see these working in career would be great, if that's something you want to jump in on. So rule number 1 is accentuating the positive. And, that means to focus on the good, look at what's successful, exciting, and underlining that. Like what we were saying earlier is that a lot of times people don't know what their gifts are, and people might not know what they're doing well, but if you point it out to them, then it's like, okay, good. I get positive feedback when when I'm doing this, and that can help people understand where to go. Now, minimizing the negative. So negative feedback, can be necessary sometimes. I mean, in order to correct problems, but minimizing it and making sure that it's not like about the person. It's not the person who is negative or something, but that you're able to deliver critical feedback in a way that helps people know what they need to work on is quite a skill to learn. Withdrawing, being kind of stonewalling, that just adds to the negativity. So minimize that. Communication is a great thing to lean in towards. One reason why we're talking about engagement today. So rule number 3, no one gets more than 50% of the blame. And there's all kinds of research behind this. If you can go into something and say, here's where I screwed up, or, somebody points out something that you did wrong and say, oh yeah, that's true. Just doing that and saying, yep, that's true. Okay, well, what can we do now? That opens up the door so much more than trying to fight about whose fault it is overall. Because the truth is that we're all in a project together, we're all in a team together, we're all contributing. Even it's like if I'm playing basketball, I'm one of the people on the court and I'm not doing anything. And so I'm like, oh, you can't blame me. It's like, no, I wasn't even showing up. So there's ways we always want to be looking for what is our responsibility in any engagement. And again, nobody gets more than 50% of the blame. Rule number 4, each person is 100% responsible for your own happiness and satisfaction. This is a huge one. It's like, I read that and I still don't believe it, even though it's like, I know it's true after working it for many years. But, if I don't speak up about what I want and what I want to contribute to the company, and I'm kind of, hoping people will guess or make an introduction for me without me saying, hey, this is what would be really meaningful to me, chances are I'm going to be unsatisfied. So it's not your boss's job to make you happy. It's not your team's job to make you happy. They can certainly contribute to it, but you got to look at how you are communicating to your team so that they know how to make you happy. That's a big one. You could think about people who are just never satisfied with anything, and see, we all probably can relate to that a little bit. So be curious about yourself and how you could take more responsibility in going for your satisfaction. And rule number 5 is agree with the truth always. That can, be hard to do, but orient towards it. Rule number 6, fight for something, not against something. So you always want to know what the values in the company are. Know what people are going for. Know what the North Star is. Know what the mission is. That way, if you're in conflict around it, it can be towards that outcome. And finally, rule number 7 is assume goodwill. Remember that anybody you're working with has deep yearnings to be heard, seen, understood, known. And that underneath whatever, let's say they're like, geez, why are they, such a pain? That underneath that, they are looking to be understood and known. And same goes for you, that we all have deep yearnings. We're trying to get our needs met. And so if you can assume goodwill from other people, that'll really help open up the doors. Okay, everybody.
Thank you, George Donald. Appreciate that.
You bet. Thanks everybody for jumping in and engaging. Great to see you all. Take care, and we'll see you next week. Career Lab Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. All right. Blessings.